Welcome to the latest interview I'm doing with someone else who works in the tourist attraction industry, and this time not from the UK, but working over in Florida. So, hello, Kylie.
Hey, George, nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, you too. So, rather than me do the introductions, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and the sort of roles you've had in the industry and where you're working now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in the industry about 12 years ago. Industry I always knew I wanted to be a part of. I'm very much a people person, knew I wanted to be a part of making people's memories. You know, that's what we go through life on is memories. So, and having, I lost my dad about 11 years ago and decided and realized that all my memories of my dad were at places like theme parks, at Alton Towers, or at the museums and stuff like that at Disney. So it kind of meant something to me very much to be a part of that industry. Did a degree in tourism business management up in Birmingham. And then from there, did a couple of college programs with Disney for international college programs and ended up moving over here in 2011. And I've kind of moved around the Orlando area a little bit. Started off at Universal Studios as a VIP tour guide, moved down to Legoland, which was awesome, being part of the Merlin Entertainments group to work with a lot of Brits on the team as a VIP operations manager. So definitely always kind of focusing on the premium guest. From there, I went over to the company called The Void, which is location-based virtual reality, working at Disney Springs. So it was a great kind of mixture of having to bring my Disney background into a brand new company. It was the very first opening they had. They also opened one in London on the same day as we opened the one in Disney Springs. But working with some huge IPs, like the very first VR we had was a Star Wars attraction. So working with some big companies, but also working with a company. The company itself had never been in operations before. So my quite brief operations background before that was some of the most operations background in the company, which got me to really kind of have to change a lot of policies and bring a lot of people on board coming from a tech company into this kind of operations world, with a team of about 80 people under me who were having to provide a Disney level of service to people that had never even stepped foot into or even really had heard of virtual reality before. Once I'd been general manager there for a while and done everything I could there, I decided it was time to start fresh and start again and move back over to Disney. Literally right now working as a frontline cast member and as a VIP tour guide, which has been probably the best learning curve of my leadership career, even though I'm not in leadership, is kind of seeing it from a different perspective from the other side. Sometimes right now I'm waking up thinking I'm relieved that I'm not in a leadership role right now, but really overall I'm thinking I wish I was there. I feel like I need to be helping people, making kind of an impact in all this.
No, that's great. So obviously you've had a number of years and a real good mix of different places, but also different roles in those places as well. So yeah, no, that's great. Obviously, as you mentioned there, you're in the US at the moment. You've been there for a while. I think people will be quite interested to hear about maybe some of the differences or how things are over there right now. What are the what are people going through, and what's the perceptions or predictions of what people think the next few months might look like for Florida and the industry over there?
It was interesting. I'd say early March is when the nervous kind of talk started. And a lot of feedback people were getting was, until Disney closes, there's nothing to worry about. Yeah. And then Disney closed. And I think that kind of became a snowball effect. It's interesting because we've not had a countrywide lockdown. Each state has been able to do what they want. And then each county in each state has been able to do what they want. So I live in, so Disney, for example, is in Orange County and Osceola County, and I'm in Osceola County. And we've had we cannot go out without face masks on. Unless you're doing exercise, you cannot leave your house without a face mask on, or you face jail time and a fine. But Orange County, there's never been a face mask rule. It's kind of like recommended instead. So being in such a tourism-driven area, it's strange. It's definitely felt very much like a ghost town. The kind of main roads around where you would sit in traffic for 45 minutes to get somewhere there's not another car on the road at some point. There's definitely benefits in those things. There's definitely been a lot of compliance. It's probably the most connected I've felt in this, like that the country has felt in quite, or even this state has felt in a number of years. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, everyone's following the same rules. We on Monday they decided to reopen restaurants, but they have quite a strict ruling, so they can only have 25% capacity inside. Tables have to be 6 feet apart, and outside, same thing, they can have outside as long as tables are apart. And there's not really been a huge amount of uptake on that. Yesterday was quite not a true national holiday here, but Cinco de Mayo is celebrated, and so a lot of the Mexican restaurants were very, very busy yesterday, and I think people are enjoying that. But no one's really taking it seriously until Disney reopens and Universal reopens, and there's a lot of rumors and there's a lot of kind of speculation and what's going to happen when they open. Are we all going to be sort of standing 6 feet apart? I mean, everyone's been to, when you go to the theme parks and hear, use all available space, keep moving in, keep moving in. I think like Disney builds itself on these 4 keys, which is number 1 is safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. That's everything goes into that. And I think with what's going to go on, the efficiency key is going out the window, because the safety is going to be so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So no official news yet, or any sort of sure predictions of when Disney are going to reopen, but just rumors.
Yeah, just the rumors. Apart from yesterday, they announced that Disneyland Shanghai is opening next week.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of is, it's a good kind of, I guess, guinea pig. What's it going to look like? They've been closed since very, very early January. So they're going on around sort of 5 months of closure. We're only at about a month and a half of closure right now. And there's obviously Disney is such a melting pot of guests. It's guests from all over the world, but there's still international travel bans and stuff like that. Almost, I think about 95% of Disney's workforce is now furloughed, and working with a really difficult unemployment payment system in Florida, which has kind of become very apparent. But so there's kind of 2 sides to it. I think the way the government set up a lot of the payment schemes, it all ends July 31st. So whether those will get extended or not. But thankfully, because Florida is such a tourism-driven state, all of the reopening groups that are kind of working on how and when the state reopens, how and beaches reopen, actually have like the president of Walt Disney World is on that team. The president of Universal Parks is on that team. So they're having a real big impact on that, as well as IAPA is heavily involved as well. So
cool, great. Okay, so moving on to something a bit different. I know you've had quite a bit of experience in, quite a bit of interest on, is around employee wellness and mental health in the workplace. So this is something that like I said, you've had some interest in your previous roles. At the moment, we've got a lot of teams who are at home who are stressed about whether they're going to have a job to come back to, when that might be. They've got partners who have been affected in other areas. They're worried about their kids and their schooling. There's a lot going on for people at home. For our attractions, who've got these teams and they've got this staff who they're normally able to see on a regular basis and have an influence on their health and well-being, what can they do? What practical steps can they do to help their teams get through this from a well-being point of view?
I could talk about this subject all day long. I think we have to start looking at some of the silver linings that are going to come out of this. And I think one of those things is that we can, once everyone kind of gets back to normal, even from like now going forward, that the stigma around mental health issues needs to break away. Everyone knows that, but no one really puts any effort into making that happen. I think my favorite quote I've heard during this entire kind of experience has been, "We're all in the same storm, but we're all in different boats." And some people, are on these lovely luxury cruise liners, some people are on these lovely yachts, and some of us are in kind of inflatable dinghies and wondering where our paddles are gone. So, and I think that really translates well into how managers and leaders can look after their teams and their mental well-being. The people in the yachts don't need the same as the people in the dinghies. The people that are just floating on by with a life jacket need a lot more than the person in the rowboat. There is that, I think, a problem that most companies have is they say, okay, this is our mental health well-being plan. This is how we're going to look after our team, and then it becomes something that just gets kind of shelved. Well, we have it, but it's not really put into action. You can't have a one-size-fits-all with policy for something like this, it has to be individualized. Like you said, there's people that they might not have been directly affected, but their partners have been affected, or their kids that once they could reopen next week, but their kids aren't going to be going back to school and they have no childcare. And then there's the overwhelming fear, take away the financial issues and stuff like that. There's the overwhelming fear of, am I going to get sick by going back to work? There's a lot of reasons here for people to be suffering from all different kinds of depression and anxieties, and kind of a lot of different things are kind of reared up. And as well, people have kind of had the opportunity to rest, relax, reset, so it's not going to affect everyone in the same way. I think making those connections and making a point of, right now, even if your team are furloughed, still have that work family going. If you don't have a work family, if you're not having a Zoom happy hour once a week, then what are you in this for? Especially in this industry. This industry is about people. This industry is about making memories, about joining together. Most people in this industry don't spend Christmas Day with their own families. They spend it with their work family. So by being in, the social distancing shouldn't have changed that. I've seen a couple of different companies, a survey company I used to work with at Merlin and the Void have, they've got no guests in parks right now doing surveys, so they've redesigned their survey. They're offering free wellbeing surveys for people that companies can use to send out and say, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, on a kind of 1 to 5 happiness scale, how are you doing? And I think if companies aren't using those tools, then why not? There's a lot. And I know as well, people often forget that managers, leaders, owners of companies aren't immune from the mental health stresses, and are struggling right now as well. But they are also being looked upon to create that much more needed support right now.
So I guess that's about communication with your team, and use this extra time you've got to personally make contact with everyone in your team and make sure they're okay. And like you said, rather than a one-fits-all policy for this, there's no rule book for any of this before. You've got to tailor it. You've got to react to each person in your team's needs.
Yeah, and there's going to be such a fear of, even when people go back to work, of, well, how long have I got a job for? How many hours am I going to have? And there's such a way to kind of mitigate those fears now. Like I said, if you're not doing the social stuff, the virtual social stuff right now, then people are probably doing something a little bit wrong. Even I've seen companies that are doing Zoom happy hours, but Zoom yoga and stuff like that. Just little things to keep. We're never going to get a time like this again. We're never going to get a time where, from a leadership point of view, we're never going to get a time where we can sit there and rewrite policies and say, like, this is what I want this company to look like. And just as much, people are starting to really take ownership of, how are my company treating me compared to how my neighbor's company are treating them. And I think that's a real big kind of key to look at. But don't look at what other companies are doing. Do what makes sense for your company and for your team.
Great. No, I think that's really good and useful advice for everyone. So as we've already touched on, no one really knows when things are going to start to reopen. But one day we do know they will reopen. People will want to visit attractions again. Disney will open the doors, and everyone else will as well. As you mentioned at the start, you've built essentially a startup from the ground up before being very involved in that. And there's probably a lot of things that experience has given you that would be useful for someone who's basically starting their business again, and like I said, opening those doors and slowly bringing things back to life. Again, have you got any practical thoughts or any advice on that rebuilding process that people are going to have to do?
Yeah, no one knows what the future looks like right now. And even before when we kind of could predict what trends look like and when people are going to be visiting and stuff like that, the main thing you have to be is adaptable. And especially right now, no one's going to get anything right the first time. And if they think they are, then they're in the wrong business, because trends change so much, our consumers change so much, and you don't know all the answers. I found so many times there was such a huge disconnect between my team in a location and the people on the corporate level who were kind of signing off on the decisions, that there was this huge time kind of gap between a question being asked and a decision being made. And we have to do something to kind of cut that, to really focus on putting a human back in human resources and coming back down to the team level and saying, like, where are these ideas from? As I say, I don't know all the answers, you don't know all the answers, but as a team, having those answers and having those decisions made quickly and by the right person. You know, it doesn't make sense for a CFO to be making a decision about how a queue line should look.
Yeah.
So, you know, taking this time around to make sure people are making the right decisions, and also preparing as much as you can. If you're looking at how queues are going to look, have those 10 different examples ready to go, so that when your team come back, that, you know, you can say, okay, we're going to try example 1 today, and then tomorrow you might try example 3. But there's no kind of scrambling. I think it's the scrambling and lack of planning that just makes a company kind of, or a new opening or a reopening fail, because there's all the kind of the backup plans aren't in place.
Yes. So be agile, but prepare to be agile, basically. So
Yeah.
you might get it right first time, and that's okay, but have the backup option ready.
Yeah.
Be listening to the feedback on the ground, and then you know, you can react to that quickly.
Yeah. Like, we don't know what our consumer looks like anymore. Like, I don't know what I feel like about going, how often I'll go to. I live and breathe the attractions industry, but I don't know how, if I'm going to be doing the same things that I used to do. I don't know if I'm going to be as comfortable right now. Or am I going to be the people in the first batch there on opening day, or am I going to wait it out? And like, we don't know what our consumers look like. We know that the concern for our guests is going to absolutely be cleanliness.
Yeah.
And I think so when people are the focus, I hate to say it, but it's almost like writing off this year financially and saying, like, the focus right now is not about how much profit we can make this year. It's about surviving and building that reputation for our guests, that we're clean, that we're doing everything we can, and we care about you, and we care about you choosing to spend your pounds, dollars, dimes with us. And I think that if we kind of change that mindset, the focus has always been so pressured on kind of targets and financial budgets, but obviously they have to keep in mind that we're in business for a reason, but to kind of shift that focus a little bit and say, what is it our consumers need, so that 2021 can be our year, and just accepting that this is what these are the cards the world has dealt us right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty sensible, good advice. Thank you. Final question then. As I said, we've got these attraction owners and managers sat at home now wondering what they should be doing right now. There's going to be a time to open, but if you had one piece of advice, one thing that an attraction owner or manager should be doing today, what would that be?
Always remember, it's in our failures that we learn the most. So don't kind of panic if you think you're doing it wrong. I think I've learned throughout kind of time with even probably looking back on general manager days, of don't worry about what happens in a day, worry about what happens in a week or a month. So if you feel like you're having a failed day today, you didn't get enough stuff done today, or you kind of haven't hit, then look at it across the week and you're probably still succeeding. In this industry, when are we ever going to get a time again to say we got this much time with our families, with our children, that we got to have this many family dinners? Focus on those things right now, because they're going to be the things that are important, because when the world does become its new version of normal, I think things are going to go a bit crazy. I'm going to, next year, as I say, focus on 2021. It's going to be very, very different. This is the time. When are we ever going to get a time again to have the opportunity to have a completely clear inbox? Use that time. Go through your policies, go through your handbooks. Do they still make sense? I can tell you that every single cast member I know at Disney World has dyed their hair crazy colors since this started. Their appearance guidelines at Disney say your hair has to be a natural color. I myself have pink and green and all sorts in there right now, because it was a time to go, oh my gosh, we actually have time to do this. I know people that didn't have a chance. You can't be growing a beard while you're working at Disney. It has to either be fully grown or not at all. Yeah. So there's been a lot of beards being grown. Does that still make sense in this day and age? Like, I can't tell yes or no for your company, for your team, but having a look back over those policies and saying what makes sense, and it kind of brings you back to that employee well-being. What's going to be the easiest adjustment for people? So, and also, are you happy with where you're at? Do you feel like you've been treated the way you wanted to have been treated? And if not, what can you do to change that? I'm not someone that sort of suggests sit back on your laurels and say, well, I wasn't getting what I wanted, but are you happy, and what changes do you need to make? Like, we are never going to get a time like this again, hopefully, where we're all kind of sitting around with too much time in our hands. This is a time to be building those new routines, to sort of say, like, yeah, I want to add in my workout every day. And these are the things that are important to me. It's important that I get, once things go back to normal, it's important I get my family meals, but it's important my team get family meals. It's important my team get those workouts in, and anything like that. I think find as many silver linings as you can in what's happened. but I'm not pretending that you have to pretend everything's happy and hunky-dory at the moment. It's not, but find those silver linings because they're definitely there.
Yeah, brilliant. No, it's nice to finish on that positive note. And like I said, it's been nice to hear about your thoughts on not just some of the practicalities and what's going on at big organizations like Disney, but also, how we can do more with our teams and reflect back on that employee well-being thing that is going to be more and more important over the next few years.
Yeah.
So thanks ever so much, Kylie. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.